The message arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning. Ambassador Frank Collins was enjoying his first cup of coffee when the emergency lights began to flash throughout the Earth Embassy on Centauri Prime. "Ambassador, you need to see this," Heather Martinez said as she rushed into his office. Her face looked pale. "The Galactic Council has called an emergency session. They're demanding our presence immediately." Frank set down his coffee mug. In his 15 years as Earth's ambassador, he had never seen Heather this worried. "Did they say what it's about?" "No, sir, but the message was marked with their highest priority code." 20 minutes later, Frank and Heather sat in the Grand Council chamber. The room was circular, with seats for representatives from over 200 spacefaring civilizations. Most of those seats were filled today. That was not a good sign. High Chancellor Zexaforn, a tall blue-skinned alien with 4 arms, rose from the central podium. His voice boomed through the chamber. "Representatives of Earth, the Galactic Council has observed with growing concern the military buildup within your solar system. Despite previous warnings, your species continues to expand its fleet beyond defensive requirements." Frank kept his face neutral, but his mind raced. The Council's intelligence was good, but not perfect. They knew about the ships Earth had publicly launched, but not the others. Not the real fleet. Zexvorn continued, "The Council has reached an unanimous decision. Earth must dismantle its military vessels exceeding defensive quotas and submit to Council supervision within 30 standard days. Failure to comply will result in appropriate consequences." The chamber fell silent. Frank could feel hundreds of alien eyes watching him. "Chancellor," Frank said, standing slowly, "Earth maintains its fleet for self-defense, as is our right under Section 7 of the Galactic Charter. We have complied with all reporting requirements." Zexvorn's upper arms crossed in a gesture Frank knew meant disapproval. "Your recent technological advances and the speed of your military expansion tell a different story, Ambassador Collins. The Council has evidence that Earth is preparing for aggressive action." "That's a serious accusation, Chancellor. May I see this evidence?" "It has been sent to your embassy systems. You have 30 days, Ambassador." This meeting is adjourned. Back in the secure room of the Earth Embassy, Frank pressed his hand against the scanner. The soundproof field activated. "They don't know," he said quietly. Heather looked up from her data tablet. "About Phoenix Base, or the Jupiter shipyards?" "Either. If they knew about those, the ultimatum would have been much more specific." Frank walked to the window and looked out at the gleaming spires of the Council City. "Get me a direct line to President Shepard. Emergency protocol." 10 minutes later, President Laura Shepard's face appeared on the secure screen. She was a woman in her 60s with short gray hair and eyes that had seen Earth through its first decades as a galactic power. "How bad is it, Frank?" she asked. "They're giving us 30 days to dismantle our fleet. The official fleet, that is. They don't seem to know about the rest." President Shepard's expression hardened. "And if we refuse?" "They didn't specify the appropriate consequences, but we can assume it means military action." "I see." The president was quiet for a moment. "We knew this day might come. The Council has always been afraid of how quickly humans advance." "What are your orders, Madam President?" "Call an emergency meeting of the Earth Defense Council. I'll be there in person. And Frank, you and Heather should return to Earth immediately. I don't want you within their reach when things get complicated." After the call ended, Heather looked at Frank. "Will there be war?" Frank stared out at the alien city that had been his home for years. "I hope not. But we need to be ready." He turned to her with a grim smile. "Pack your bags, Heather. We're going home." Across the solar system, encrypted messages began to reach hidden bases and stations. On Mars, deep beneath the red surface, lights started coming on in vast underground hangars. In the shadows of Jupiter's moons, stealth fields powered down briefly as ship commanders received new orders. Earth had been preparing for this moment for years. The clock was now ticking. 3 days after receiving the Council's ultimatum, President Laura Shepard stepped out of a small shuttle onto the dusty surface of Mars. She wore a lightweight environmental suit as she walked toward what appeared to be an ordinary research outpost. Admiral William Carter waited for her at the entrance. He was a tall man with short gray hair and a face weathered by years of service. "Madam President, welcome to Phoenix Base," he said, saluting. The airlock closed behind them. After passing through decontamination, they entered an elevator that looked like it might go down a few floors. Instead, it descended for nearly 2 minutes. When the doors opened, President Shepard gasped. Before her stretched an enormous underground hangar. It was so vast that she could not see the far wall. Dozens of massive warships sat in neat rows, with hundreds of workers moving around them like ants. "How many?" she asked quietly. 127 combat-ready vessels in this facility alone," Admiral Carter replied. "Another 83 in the Jupiter shipyards, and 42 smaller craft hidden throughout the asteroid belt." They began walking along a catwalk that offered a view of the entire facility. "The Council has no idea about any of this?" the President asked. "No, ma'am. We've been using our new phase shift technology to hide the energy signatures. As far as their sensors can tell, this is just a research station with a small power plant." They stopped in front of the largest ship. Unlike the sleek silver vessels the Earth publicly displayed, this ship was dark gray with blue lighting along its hull. It was at least 3 times the size of anything Earth had officially launched. "This is the TSV Defiance," Admiral Carter said with pride. "Our flagship." A woman in a blue uniform approached them. "Chief Engineer Susan Grant, Madam President," she said, shaking the President's hand. "Would you like to see what makes our ship special?" Inside the Defiance, Susan led them to the engine room. At its center sat a glowing blue core. "This is an antimatter reactor," Susan explained. 10 times more powerful than anything the Council races use. "We reverse-engineered it from the damaged Drukhari scout ship we captured 5 years ago." "And our weapons?" the President asked. "Even better," Susan smiled. "The phase shields can absorb most known energy weapons, and our graviton cannons can disable an enemy ship without destroying it." They moved to the bridge, where a man with broad shoulders stood looking at display screens. "Captain Peter Daniels," Admiral Carter introduced him. "He'll command the Defiance if we need to deploy." The President looked at the 3 of them. "I called an emergency meeting of the Defense Council before coming here. We need to decide how to respond to the ultimatum." "What are our options?" Peter asked. "We could comply, at least on the surface," the President said. "Dismantle the ships they know about while keeping these hidden." Admiral Carter shook his head. "That would only delay the inevitable. The Council fears our potential. They won't stop with just our known ships." "We could reveal our true fleet as a deterrent," Susan suggested. "That might trigger the very conflict we're trying to avoid," Peter countered. The President walked to the viewport and looked at the massive hangar filled with Earth's secret fleet. "What do you recommend, Admiral?" "Prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. I suggest we begin quietly moving our ships into strategic positions throughout the solar system. Meanwhile, Ambassador Collins can try one more round of negotiations." "And if negotiations fail?" the President asked. Admiral Carter's face was grim. "Then we show the Council why they were right to fear us." Back on the bridge of the Defiance, Peter looked at the star chart showing Earth's solar system. Small dots indicated the hidden positions where Earth's fleet would soon deploy. "Will they back down when they see what we really have?" he asked quietly. Admiral Carter placed a hand on his shoulder. "I fought in 3 interstellar conflicts, son. Nobody ever backs down when they feel cornered. Be ready." Across Mars, silent alarms began to sound. The Terran fleet was awakening. Frank Collins and Heather Martinez walked through the gleaming halls of the Centauri Prime diplomatic quarter. Despite President Shepard's order to return to Earth, they had decided to make one last attempt at diplomacy. "The Arcturian ambassador agreed to meet us secretly," Heather whispered as they turned down a quieter corridor. He says he has information about why the Council issued the ultimatum. They entered a small garden designed to mimic an Arcturian forest. Tall purple plants created private spaces between winding paths. In one such space waited Ambassador Kielnar, his translucent skin shimmering in the artificial light. "Thank you for coming," Frank said, bowing slightly in the Arcturian style. Kielnar's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of stress. "I risk much by meeting you, Ambassador Collins. The Council is not united in this action against Earth." "Then why the ultimatum?" Heather asked. "The Drakari pushed for it. They have been gathering support against Earth for months, showing evidence of your military activities." Kielnar's voice dropped lower. "They fear you. Humans advance too quickly. In just 1 century, you went from primitive space travel to matching technologies that took the Drakari millennia to develop." Frank leaned forward. "Is there any way to resolve this peacefully?" "The Drakari do not want peace. They want control. Several council members suspect they are already preparing a strike force, regardless of your response to the ultimatum." After the meeting, Frank and Heather returned to the Earth Embassy. As Heather reviewed security footage from around the Council space docks, Frank prepared a formal response to the ultimatum. "Frank, you need to see this," Heather called out suddenly. On her screen, the footage showed Drakari warships being loaded with weapons. The timestamp was from 2 days before the Council had issued their ultimatum. "They were preparing for war before even giving us a chance to comply," Frank said grimly. "We need to warn Earth." The next day, Frank stood before the full Galactic Council. High Chancellor Zexavorn watched with his 4 arms crossed as Frank presented Earth's formal response. "Earth has always respected the Council and its principles," Frank began. "We maintain our fleet for defensive purposes only. However, we have evidence that suggests this ultimatum was not issued in good faith." He displayed the footage of the Drakari preparations. Murmurs spread through the chamber. "This is human deception," the Drakari representative hissed. "These images are falsified." High Chancellor Zexavorn raised a hand for silence. "Ambassador Collins, these accusations are serious. The Council will need to verify this evidence." "While you verify, the Drakari prepare for war," Frank replied. "Earth wants peace, Chancellor, but we will defend ourselves if attacked." After the session, as Frank and Heather prepared to return to their embassy, a small alien approached them. He was Tix, a junior aide to the Chancellor. "Ambassador," he whispered, "I have something for you." He pressed a small data crystal into Heather's hand. "Fleet movements. The Drakari have already dispatched ships toward your solar system." "Why are you helping us?" Heather asked. Tix's large eyes darted nervously. "The Council was created to preserve peace, not to suppress rising civilizations. What they are doing to Earth is wrong." Back in their secure room, Frank and Heather examined the data. 3 Drakari warships had indeed left for the Sol system, scheduled to arrive in 2 days. "We're out of time," Frank said. He activated the secure channel to Earth. "President Shepard, the diplomatic option has failed. The Drakari have launched ships toward Earth." On the screen, President Shepard nodded grimly. "Return home immediately, Frank. We'll be ready for them." As their ship left Centauri Prime, Frank looked back at the shining Council towers. "Do you think they know what they're starting?" he asked Heather. "No," she replied quietly. "They have no idea what humans are capable of when threatened." Captain Nickel Wright sat in the command chair of the TSV Sentinel, a patrol vessel that, to outside observers, appeared to be a standard Earth defense ship. In reality, the Sentinel carried technology far beyond what Earth had revealed to the Galactic Council. "Captain, we have 3 ships entering the outer system," her sensor officer reported. Energy signatures matched Drakari warships. Nicole nodded calmly. "Maintain position. Do not engage active scanning. Let them think we haven't spotted them yet." 25 days remained until the Council's ultimatum expired. The arrival of Drakari ships this early confirmed what Ambassador Collins had reported. They had no intention of waiting for Earth's official response. "The Drakari vessels are on a course for Jupiter," the navigation officer said. "Wait. They're adjusting. New heading puts them on course for Luna Base." Nicole frowned. Luna Base was Earth's oldest off-world colony, home to over 10,000 civilians. It was also where Earth kept its public research facilities. "Message from Admiral Carter, Captain," the communications officer said. "We are to shadow the Drakari, but take no aggressive action. Observe only." For 6 hours, the Sentinel followed the Drakari ships from a distance. Nicole watched as they approached the moon, moving into a position that would give them firing solutions on Luna Base's main dome. "They're charging weapons, Captain," the tactical officer said urgently. Nicole sat forward in her chair. "Are you certain?" "Yes, ma'am. Energy readings are consistent with their main cannons powering up." Nicole made her decision. "Bring our real engines online. Move to intercept." The crew looked at her in surprise. This would reveal capabilities Earth had kept hidden. "Captain, our orders," her first officer began. "Our orders were to take no aggressive action," Nicole cut in. "I consider moving to protect civilians from an unprovoked attack to be defensive, not aggressive. Do it." The Sentinel's engines glowed bright blue as the ship suddenly accelerated to 3 times its previously demonstrated speed. Within minutes, it placed itself between the Drakari ships and the moon. "Open a channel," Nicole ordered. The largest Drakari ship appeared on screen. Its captain, a reptilian alien with dark scales, looked shocked at the Sentinel's sudden appearance. "This is Captain Nicole Wright of Earth Vessel Sentinel. You are charging weapons near an Earth civilian settlement. Stand down immediately." The Drakari captain recovered his composure. "We are conducting authorized exercises. Remove your vessel." "Negative. This is sovereign Earth space. Power down your weapons, or we will consider this an act of war." The Drakari ships began to spread out, attempting to flank the Sentinel. "They're targeting us," the tactical officer reported. Nicole nodded. "Activate phase shields." A blue energy field enveloped the Sentinel just as the lead Drakari ship fired. The blast struck the shield and dissipated harmlessly. "Return fire," Nicole ordered. "Disable their engines only." The Sentinel's hidden weapon ports opened, revealing advanced graviton cannons. Precise blue beams struck 2 of the Drakari ships, instantly disabling their propulsion systems. The third ship turned to flee. "Let it go," Nicole said. "They need to report what they've seen." Within the hour, Admiral Carter arrived on the bridge of the Sentinel via secure transport. "You revealed our technology," he said, though his tone carried no anger. "They were about to fire on civilians, sir," Nicole replied. "I made the call I thought was right." Admiral Carter nodded, and it was the right call. "The Council will be furious, but they fired first. Now they know we're not as defenseless as they thought." He looked at the view screen showing the disabled Drakari vessels. "How long until the Council fleet arrives?" Nicole asked. "Intelligence suggests 5 days at most. They'll use this incident as justification to move before their own deadline." Admiral Carter's eyes narrowed. "Alert all commands. The Terran fleet deploys now." Across the solar system, hidden ships began to power up. General Vrakthar stood on the bridge of the Council flagship, the Righteous Judgment. He was a veteran of 3 galactic campaigns, and he had never lost a battle. Today would not be the first. "Status report," he demanded. His second in command, a thin alien with pale blue skin, approached. "The fleet has entered the Sol system, General. 235 ships as ordered. Earth Defense Forces appear to be mobilizing, but our scans show only 47 vessels. They are concentrating around their homeworld." Vrakthar's mouth formed what passed for a smile among his species. As expected, they revealed some impressive technology against our advanced scouts, but they cannot hope to match our numbers. The Council fleet moved deeper into the solar system, spreading out in standard attack formation. According to intelligence, Earth had only a small defensive fleet, enough to handle pirates and small disputes, but nothing that could stand against the combined might of the Council races. On Mars, Admiral Carter watched the approaching fleet on a holographic display. Beside him stood Captain Peter Daniels of the Defiance. "They've taken the bait," Carter said. "They only see our decoy force around Earth." Peter nodded. "Their sensors can't penetrate our stealth systems. They have no idea what's waiting for them." Admiral Carter picked up a secure communicator. "All commands, this is Admiral Carter. Execute Operation Revelation. Authorization code, Phoenix Rising." Across the solar system, hidden bases suddenly came alive. On Mars, massive underground doors slid open. Among Jupiter's moons, stealth fields deactivated. Throughout the asteroid belt, ships that had appeared to be nothing more than mining vessels transformed as hidden weapons systems came online. In space, General Vrakthar was the first to notice something was wrong. "What are those energy signatures?" he demanded, pointing at new readings appearing on the tactical display. His second-in-command stared in shock. "New contacts, sir. Many new contacts. They're everywhere." One by one, then in groups, Earth ships appeared on the Council sensors. Not 47 ships, but over 200. They materialized from behind moons, rose from planetary surfaces, and emerged from asteroid fields. Some simply appeared in open space as their advanced stealth systems deactivated. "Impossible," Vrakthar whispered. "Their fleet was supposed to be minimal." On the bridge of the TSV Defiance, Peter Daniels watched as his ship rose from the Martian surface along with 50 others. The massive vessel moved into position at the head of its battle group. "All weapons systems online," his tactical officer reported. "Phase shields at maximum strength." Peter nodded. "Take us to the front. The Council needs to see what they're really facing." The Defiance accelerated, its engines glowing bright blue. Similar ships moved into formation around it, creating a wall of advanced human warships between Earth and the Council fleet. In the Council flagship, confusion reigned. Where did they come from? Vrakthar demanded. How did we miss this many ships in our intelligence? Before anyone could answer, all communication systems activated simultaneously. On every screen throughout the Council fleet appeared the face of President Laura Shepard. "This is President Shepard of Earth to the approaching Council fleet. You have entered sovereign Earth space with hostile intent, following an unprovoked attack on our civilians by Drakari forces. The ships you now see before you represent only a portion of Earth's true defensive capabilities. We sought peace but prepared for war. The Terran fleet stands ready to defend humanity. You have 1 hour to withdraw from our system, or we will be forced to respond to your aggression." The message ended, leaving silence on the bridge of the righteous judgment. "Orders, General," his second-in-command asked nervously. Vrakthar stared at the display showing the human fleet. He had expected an easy victory. Now he faced a force equal to his own, with technology that seemed more advanced than anything the Council possessed. "Hold position," he said finally. "I need to think." The hour passed slowly. On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Peter Daniels watched the countdown timer reach 0. The Council fleet had not moved. "They're not withdrawing," Peter said to Admiral Carter over the secure channel. "What are your orders?" Admiral Carter's face on the screen looked grim. "The President has given me full authority. If they won't leave peacefully, we show them why they should have." Throughout the Terran fleet, captains received their battle assignments. The human ships began to move into attack formations. On the Council flagship, General Vrakthar had made his decision. "We cannot retreat," he told his officers. "The Council would see it as weakness. Prepare all ships for battle." His second-in-command looked uncertain. "General, their technology appears to be beyond our intelligence reports. The ship that engaged our advance force had shields unlike anything we've encountered." "Numbers will prevail," Vrakthar insisted. "Begin the attack." The Council fleet surged forward. Hundreds of ships accelerated toward the Terran defenses, weapons charging. "They're coming," Peter said, watching the tactical display. All ships, hold position. Let them come to us. The first shots came from the Council's long-range cruisers. Energy beams streaked across space toward the human ships. Phase shield holding, reported the Defiance's tactical officer. No damage. Similar reports came in from across the Terran line. The Council weapons, powerful as they were, could not penetrate the advanced human shields. All ships, return fire. Admiral Carter ordered. Target their weapons and engines only. Let's show them what we can do. The Terran fleet responded with precision. Blue beams lanced out from the human ships, striking Council vessels with surgical accuracy. Weapon emplacements exploded and engine sections went dark as graviton cannons disrupted their power systems. Captain Maria Alvarez of the TSV Thunderchild saw an opportunity forming. "Admiral, their right flank is thinning," she reported. "Request permission to use quantum jump technology to strike their command ships." Admiral Carter considered for only a moment. "Permission granted, Captain. Take your battle group and hit them hard." The Thunderchild and 5 other ships activated their most secret weapon. In an instant, they vanished from their position, only to reappear behind the Council's command ships. On the Righteous Judgment, alarms blared. "Human ships behind us." An officer shouted. "They've somehow teleported." Vrakthar spun around in shock. "Impossible. Fire all weapons." But the Council ships were slow to respond to the unexpected threat. The Thunderchild and its battle group fired, disabling 3 command vessels before they could react. Across the battlefield, the Council fleet began to fall into chaos. Their carefully planned formations broke apart as they tried to deal with attacks coming from multiple directions. Then something even more unexpected happened. 5 Council ships, bearing the markings of the Arcturian and Tellarite delegations, suddenly ceased firing. "General, the Arcturian ships are moving out of formation," reported Vrakthar's tactical officer. They're refusing to engage." "What?" Vrakthar roared. "Order them to attack immediately." "They're not responding to commands," the communications officer said. "The Tellarite ships are also withdrawing from combat." On the Defiance, Peter watched as more Council ships began to break formation. "They're fracturing," he told Admiral Carter. "The coalition is falling apart." Admiral Carter nodded. "Push the advantage. Focus on the Drakari ships. They're the ones who pushed for this conflict." The Defiance led a concentrated assault on the Drakari section of the Council fleet. The human ships moved with coordination and purpose, while the Council forces struggled to maintain coherence. Vrakthar watched in disbelief as his fleet advantage evaporated. Nearly a third of the Council ships had stopped fighting, either disabled by human weapons or refusing to follow orders. "Order a retreat," he finally commanded. "We need to regroup." As the Council ships began to turn away, the Defiance moved directly toward the flagship. "Not you," Peter said, watching the Righteous Judgment try to escape. "Target their engines. That ship isn't going anywhere." 3 days after the battle, Ambassador Frank Collins walked into the Galactic Council chambers. Unlike his previous visits, he was not alone. Behind him stood 6 soldiers in Terran fleet uniforms, and between them, General Vrakthar in restraints. The council chamber erupted in shouts and angry calls as Frank approached the central podium. High Chancellor Zixasvorn banged his gavel for order. "Ambassador Collins, this is highly irregular," Zixasvorn said, his 4 arms trembling with barely controlled anger. "You bring a prisoner of war into these sacred chambers." Frank stood tall. "Not a prisoner of war, Chancellor. A criminal who attacked civilian targets and led an unprovoked assault on a peaceful system." He activated a holographic display showing footage from the battle. It clearly showed Drakari ships firing on Luna Base before any human vessels engaged. "The Council gave Earth an ultimatum based on lies," Frank continued. "The Drakari convinced you that we were building weapons for conquest when we were preparing to defend ourselves. And we were right to do so." The Drakari representative stood up, his scales dark with rage. "These humans are the true threat. Look how they hid their fleet, their technology. They plan to dominate the galaxy. Heather Martinez stepped forward with another data crystal. With permission, I would like to present evidence given to us by a council aide. Zexvorn nodded reluctantly, and Heather activated the crystal. Documents and recordings appeared showing secret meetings between Drakari leaders and certain council officials. In these meetings, they discussed how to force Earth to disarm so the Drakari could establish their dominance. Lies, the Drakari representative hissed. Human fabrications. A small figure stood up from among the junior council staff. It was Tix. It is not fabricated, Tix said, his voice shaking. I recorded those meetings myself. The Drakari have been manipulating the council for years. The chamber fell into chaos again. Several council races began arguing with each other, some defending Earth, others blaming the Drakari, and some simply calling for order. Meanwhile, aboard the Defiance, Captain Peter Daniels and Chief Engineer Susan Grant were interrogating Vrakthar's second-in-command, who had been captured along with the general. Why was the council so afraid of Earth? Peter asked. We never threatened anyone. The alien looked up with his large, pale eyes. It is not what you have done. It is what the prophecies say you will do. Susan frowned. Prophecies? What prophecies? The ancient texts speak of a young race that will rise quickly, mastering in decades what took others millennia. This race would either lead the galaxy to its greatest era, or to its destruction. The alien's voice dropped lower. When humans appeared and advanced so rapidly, many believed you were this race. Peter leaned forward. And the Drakari wanted to make sure we couldn't leave the galaxy anywhere. The alien nodded. There is more. The texts speak of an enemy beyond the rim of known space, a darkness that sleeps but will soon awaken. The young race is either our salvation or will hasten our doom. He looked at them with fear in his eyes. The council wasn't trying to stop human aggression. They were trying to control humanity's destiny. Back in the council chambers, the arguments had settled into a more structured debate. Several council races, including the Arcturians and Tellarites, were calling for the Drakari to be censured and for Zexvorn to resign. We cannot continue as before, the Arcturian representative said. The council was created to maintain peace, not to suppress rising civilizations out of fear. Frank stepped forward again. Earth does not seek revenge or dominance. We want what we have always wanted, peaceful cooperation based on mutual respect. But we will not disarm. We will not submit to control based on fear. Zexvorn looked around at the divided council, then back at Frank. What do you propose, Ambassador? Frank smiled for the first time. A new beginning. For all of us. 3 months after the Battle of Sol, Earth hosted a gathering unlike any in human history. Ships from 37 different spacefaring civilizations filled Earth orbit, their lights creating new constellations in the night sky. In a grand hall built specifically for this historic event, President Laura Shepard stood before representatives of species from across the galaxy. Some had been council members, others had remained independent, and a few were civilizations that had previously avoided contact with the council altogether. Today marks a new chapter in galactic history, President Shepard began. Not one written by a single authority, but one we will write together. Frank Collins, now Earth's Secretary of Interstellar Affairs, sat beside Heather Martinez, who had been promoted to ambassador. Nearby sat Tix, no longer a junior aide but the official representative of his people. The Sol Accords that we signed today create something different from the old council, President Shepard continued. Not a governing body that controls and restricts, but an alliance that protects and shares. Each civilization maintains its sovereignty while contributing to our collective defense and knowledge. Admiral William Carter watched from the side of the hall. The past months had been busy ones for Earth's fleet. With the fall of the Council, pirates and opportunists had tried to take advantage of the power vacuum. The Terran fleet had been instrumental in maintaining stability during the transition. After the signing ceremony, a smaller meeting took place aboard the TSV Defiance. Captain Peter Daniels, recently promoted to admiral, spread out star charts showing regions beyond explored space. The information from Vrakthar and the ancient texts all point to the same region, he said, indicating an area at the edge of the charts. Whatever this threat is, it's out there. Susan Grant, now Fleet Chief Engineer, pointed at the newest addition to Earth's fleet. The Explorer vessels are ready. They have our best phase shields, quantum jump drives, and sensor arrays designed to detect any anomalies. President Shepard studied the charts. How soon can you depart? Within the week, Peter replied. 5 ships with crews comprising humans and volunteers from 7 other species. The first truly multi-species expedition in galactic history. Later that evening, Heather walked with Tix through the gardens outside the New Alliance headquarters. Did you ever imagine it would turn out like this? She asked. Tix looked up at the stars, where the lights of alien ships mingled with the ancient constellations. Never. In my wildest dreams, I hoped only that war might be avoided. I never thought Earth would lead us to something better than what we had. We still face challenges, Heather said. This threat beyond known space. But you won't face it alone, Tix replied. That's the difference. The next morning, Admiral Carter stood on a viewing platform with President Shepard as the TSV Defiance and its battle group prepared to depart on their expedition. It's a big galaxy out there, Carter said, and apparently an even bigger threat. President Shepard smiled. Good thing we prepared for the worst and found the best in ourselves along the way, Carter added. From the bridge of the Defiance, Admiral Peter Daniels surveyed his crew. Humans worked alongside aliens from various worlds, all wearing the same uniform with different planet insignias on their shoulders. All ships report ready, Admiral, his first officer said. Peter nodded. Send the message to all vessels. Operation New Horizon is go. Let's see what's waiting for us out there. As the Defiance led its battle group away from Earth, its engines glowing bright against the darkness, Peter thought about the journey that had brought them here. The Council's ultimatum had been meant to limit humanity, to control their destiny. Instead, it had pushed humans to reveal not just their military might, but their ability to forge something new from conflict. The Terran fleet, once Earth's secret weapon, had become the vanguard of a united galaxy, ready to face whatever waited in the vast unknown.